totally agree with that. And you brought up something I gotta take it a little bit further. You know, you met your husband, and I heard what the therapist said to you. I want to ask you this. It's obvious that men have been feminized over the years and really demonized for acting like men. And I've always said this. I said, what people don't understand, when a man acts like a man, it's a benefit to a woman. It's not demeaning women, it's a benefit to women. So what is your idea of a real man? You married one, obviously. What are those qualities?
A strong man who is a protector,
Mhm.
who looks out for his lady and his children and takes care of them. Um, my own, ideal guy is the one I married who is also intelligent and very clever. Um, and it's funny because Doug, just given the nature of my career and, it's gone well. I'm the primary wage earner in my family, but that's like I would be if I were married to basically 99% of the men
Mm.
in the country, right? It's not about Doug. Doug had a successful company. Now he's a successful author. But at home, he's more of the alpha and I'm more of the beta.
Mm.
Like he's the decision maker. And I like that. And he's not controlling. He's completely supportive of a strong, independent wife. And loves my job and loves what it brings to my world. But like we have certain traditional roles inside the house, which we're both fine with. And there's an order to that I think we both find attractive. And like I would never like kill the enormous bug in the bathtub. He's got to do it. I don't take out the trash. He has to do that. I'll unload the dishwasher. Every once in a while I'll do a trash and he'll do a dishwasher, but not usually I'm saying these are small things,
Yeah.
but there's a clarity somewhat around like the gender roles at home and in all aspects of the home life, and it works. I like being married to somebody who's an alpha in that way. And it doesn't mean this is the point I've been trying to make to the Republican Party because I don't want it to overcorrect for the betification that the Democrats have done to their men. Like on the right, we don't have to go so hardcore alpha that we eliminate all of the men who are, yes, strong men at home, but also who are loving and supportive and good dads and great husbands and are okay if they have a woman who wants to work outside of the home. There's just too many, in my view, who have like want to overcorrect it back to something that appears more backwards. And that's no way to recruit young women over to our side. And by the way, women vote more than men. So we do need to get them on our side.
Yes. And as a strong and independent woman, you're not threatened at all by your husband's protectiveness and assertiveness and just being, having the role of the man in the house. That doesn't threaten you at all.
No, it's hot. I love it. I mean, anytime Doug has threatened to beat somebody up on my behalf, he's gotten lucky that night. Of course, every woman loves that. And I feel like you're faking it if you say you want something else. And I like that he's like he'll tell me who's a bad guy. Like he'll watch my show, he'll listen to like some things that happen in my professional life, and he's quick to say that one's bad. And I listen to him because I know he's looking out for me. He's got very good judgment. It's another way of being a protector. And even with our kids, he's more of the disciplinarian and I'm more of the softer touch. And I like that too. All it takes is for Doug to say our child's name and the kid will stop. Like
Right.
they know if he says their name, like with just the right tone, they need to stop it. Like he's there and they're in trouble and they don't want to be in trouble with Doug. I love all that. I don't want some like wussified soft guy who really just wants to be their friend and
Mhm.
like hang out with them as opposed to like raise a man or in my daughter's case, a strong woman. And be okay being married to a strong woman. That also takes a very strong man, very strong man.
Yes.
Doug's ego is very much intact. Sometimes people will attack him. And Doug's always like, oh, I couldn't care less. Like he has the thickest skin of anybody I know. He doesn't like it when they come for me, which I like. But for him, God, it's very tough to get a rise out of him. Anyway, I love all that. And I don't think we as women who are strong and maybe working or whatever have to give up on that. And I don't think Democrat women need to settle for less in their relationships either. My God, I think they'd be a lot happier if they had strong men at home who had strong opinions and understood very clearly how they wanted things to be, but were open minded. And I don't want to say this sounds weird, but I'm kind of looking for their woman in hand from time to time when they felt strongly about something, they needed to put their foot down. I think most women respond well to that and find it very attractive. And then their sex lives improve. And then they're less bitter and unhappy. And the last thing they would do is shave off all the hair on their heads. They would keep their bodies more fit. The more honestly, I had a sex expert on. The more often you have that kind of stimulation in your life, the healthier you are, the happier you are. I see all these Democrat women going on like some putting on chastity belts after the election. I'm like, oh, sisters, this is
You got it
exactly
mixed up.
the wrong thing to do. So I think it's all connected.
No, I agree. And I say this, and I don't mean to me demeaning it all, but I have 5 daughters, so I have a little bit of a background to talk about this. I think a lot of the women that feel this way about guys have just never really had a man in their life, a real man, to treat them properly and to do the things that a man does. Because, my daughters used to tell me, I mean, they're all fine now and married and, engaged and all that. But Dad, there's no good men around anymore, And I said, well, keep looking, you'll find one. Don't worry about it. God's got a plan for you. And fortunately that happened. But I had a guy on here the other day, and he was a very successful guy, 30 years old. He has a big jewelry operation in Manhattan. And I said, why aren't you married? And he says, Michael, you don't understand the quality of women around. I'm in New York, and I just, I want a woman that I'm going to be with forever. I don't want her to just look at my money. I want to, that's going to be my only marriage. And he was really, you could tell that he was really sincere about it, and it wasn't that he was down on women. He just wanted to find the right one. So I don't know. I'm going to be married 40 years, so I got, very blessed in that regard, lucky in that regard. So I don't have that issue. But
Yeah, I
Well,
think
I see it like our young people today are lost in this way. I think,
yeah.
like, I've talked to a lot of young conservative women who are very worried because they may not want to be full-time stay-at-home moms, and they feel like maybe the party's shifting to where like that's the only acceptable option for young Republican men. And they don't want that. Some of these women are gunners, they've got exciting careers. So I don't want our young Republican men to get to the point where they think the only thing that will satisfy them or be okay or lead to a good life is somebody who will be at home full time. And there's nothing wrong with that. Virtually every friend I have is a stay-at-home mom. There's zero judgment on my part for that. But I also think that once we got to the point where we stopped demonizing that choice, we can't forget not to demonize the other choice, which is maybe our young women do want to work and have a family. And if they can find a way, so much the better. And men, be chivalrous. I don't care what the modern standards are. You should open the door for your lady. You
Mhm.
should, when you're walking near the sidewalk, you should be out near the traffic and she should be
Mm.
on the inside, right? You should be paying for the meals. You should be. Honestly, I don't care whether she makes more than you or not. You should pay for the meals. It's a small thing, it's not a big expense. It's just a way of saying, I will take care of you. And then she takes care of you in other special, soft ways that matter as well. Like, we can't lose these little traditions because I know they're important and they're biological, like it's ancestral, it's evolutionary that if we don't feel protected by our men, we won't be attracted to them. Like it's in our DNA after all these years.
Mhm.
And if our husbands don't look at us on the converse side and say, this is a nurturer who will take care of my kids, who can reproduce, who is, young and capable of doing that, and who's going to take care of me too in her own way, then they won't find us attractive. So we
Mm.
can't be all sharp elbows, and they certainly can't be all soft edges. It just doesn't work.
Well, I got to tell you, I think this was the most important part of our conversation. I really mean it. I hope men and women are listening to this because you're so right on. We're so in alignment with that. But I have to ask you something that's a little bit personal now. And if you don't want to, we can cut this out afterwards. But I read somewhere that you have 3 children, and they were all by in vitro.
Yeah. Yes.
The reason I'm asking, our oldest daughter now, she just got married a year ago. She's 39, and she's going through the in vitro process and just found out she had 15 healthy eggs. And I think I'm trying to get it right. It came down to 5 really good ones. And so we were at a discussion the other night, and she said, Dad, they're asking me if I want a boy or a girl. And she said, what do you think? I said, just get the strongest one right now, strongest one. Don't worry about that. If we don't need to know the sex. So talking about that, and then, well, it could work, it may not work, even though it's good. So all these things, and I want her so badly to have a child. She wants it so badly. So is it, your experience with it, was it a good one? Did you go through?
Yes, it was very positive. I I was one of the ones I met Doug when I was 35. We got married at 37, and I had my first child at 38, and then 40 and then 42. So my lateness in coming to the, childbearing thing was just, I just didn't meet Doug until I'd already been married and that marriage fell apart. Anyway, um, but I do want people to know the eggs, for whatever it's worth, when I got them tested at age 38, they were good. They were still good. It's not true for everybody. Mine were great. My problem on conceiving a baby was my uterus is small. It's like a
Mm.
small uterus. It's like I don't know. But anyway, it made it tough to conceive, but fine in actually carrying a baby and delivering. So I barely remember IVF. It was so easy. It was
Mm.
like the first one is scary because there's a big old needle that they stick in you. And like the
Mm.
first time you're like, oh, honey, we've got to ice it. Help me. And they show you, I got to like mix it. You feel like a chemist. By the end of the cycle, there's no ice. You mix it yourself. You're like in the ass while you're bouncing a baby over here and you're on the phone. It's like, it is a nothing. And of course, as soon as you're pregnant, it's totally forgotten. No one remembers, like, they don't talk about how they conceived it unless it like comes up like this in conversation. It's a nothing. Same way they don't talk about how they birthed the baby. Now,
Mm.
these crazy feminist Nazis make it sound like you can't have anything other than a vaginal birth and be a real mother. It's like, well, I see 3 children here. I think I'm a real mother. What do you care how the baby comes out of me? Like, people shame other women for their choices, and it's absurd. So the IVF, I loved it. It worked each time we did it. Thank God we weren't in the position of having extra embryos, which
Mm.
is controversial and it's very hard for parents to deal with what to do with
Yeah.
that. We just didn't have that problem. We had 2 left, and I put them in with my last child, and I only got 1 child, so they don't always like all take. But anyway,
Well,
I
you
highly recommend it.
you put both of them in at the same time because I know that my daughter was wondering if she should do that or not. And I said, "Don't ask me. I don't know." But you did it, and it was okay.
Yeah, for me, that was a better choice than
Mm.
I didn't want to leave any man behind.
Mm.
Like I didn't. It's a very tough thing to have to
Yeah.
say, okay, now what would I do with my embryos? Like especially because now you've probably met your first couple of children,
Yeah.
and you're not looking at them as embryos. They look to you like your
Right.
babies, and you're faced with this choice of like, do I leave them behind or do I come get them? So I was happy that I just had the 2 and I used both of them. Um, but yeah, I only got pregnant with 1 baby. I didn't have, they don't, just same way as if you conceive naturally, they don't all implant in the uterine lining and turn into an actual child. So anyway, I don't think IVF should be demonized the way it is. It was a miracle worker for me. My kids are great. I can't imagine life without them. They're all thriving and going to be productive members of society and probably conservatives. So we did a good job. And it's like I say to the Catholic Church, because they're always trying to make me to, do penance for everything. I'm like, why
Yeah.
don't you just say thank you? Just made you 3 extra Catholics. All I want to hear from you guys is thank you.
Exactly. My friends, if you enjoyed this video, I'm going to give you an opportunity to become my partner in business. Franzese Wine experiencing tremendous growth over the past couple of years, and we're going to experience even further growth in the next few years. You're going to have an opportunity to be my partner because you've been supporting me, you've been my fan base, and I want to share this with you. So go to invest.franzesewine.com, and offer you shouldn't refuse.